Hey there, folks. It's Cindy Willits. So, this is my little digital storytelling. I have up in front of us right now a few pictures to start my story, and then I have a few more pictures after this. I wish I had a few more to add to this story, but I don't have them on my computer. My story actually is one that I utilized this past month with my students because we were talking about writing a personal narrative, a memoir, something about something that was meaningful to you. So, in order to start out the story, naturally, I use a story that I was going to write about as an example, which I actually did write it and actually did make a whole essay and actually did share it with the class. So, I also did the assignment. But I set the stage with some pictures and kind of building up about this story. And the story is about my high school class ring. I have always wanted to write this story down, so this year I actually did it. So here's me. This is actually some stuff that I use in orientations. And one of the funny things is that this particular one, since I work with sixth graders, I use this picture because here's me right there when I was in sixth grade. So for me, growing up in my school years, there was a lot of really important mementos and a lot of really important moments that you wanted to sort of remember with a memento. And the one memento that I wanted to remember for my high school years, of course, was the fact that I had a pretty good high school experience. Yeah, okay, we all have our crazy high school experiences and we all have our ups and down high school experiences. But I was involved in a lot of things in high school. I went to a really big high school. We had 750 in the graduating class. I was involved in choir. I was involved in the color guard. I was in honor society. I was in creative things, lots of different singing groups. And when it came time to choose the items to go on my high school class ring, and here it is right here, I had to carefully select what I wanted to go on this high school class ring. And I shared with the class that this high school class ring was really important to me. It symbolized a lot. I wore it all the time. It also wasn't even a gold ring. It's actually an imposter gold. So the day came that I actually lost this high school class ring. And I lost it when I was going to college for my associate's degree because I took a job, of course, in one of the departments to help, work study to pay for my tuition. So back then, of course, in the early 90s, we used a lot of things called dittos. And if anybody has ever used a ditto machine, you know how awfully dirty your hands can be from using one of those things with the ink that would get upon your hands. So religiously, after I copied all the tests, I worked in the psych department, so I would copy all the tests, lock up all the tests, and I would go to the ladies' room and wash my hands. What would I do, of course? I would take off my high school class ring. I'd sit it on the counter, wash my hands really well, put the ring back on. Well, one tragic day, I forgot to put the ring back on my finger. However, I was so saddened by the fact that I had lost this ring because when I went back, of course, the ring wasn't there. I scampered back later on that day before the building closed. The ring was not to be found. I figured, well, goodness gravy, whoever came across this ring and took it, they're going to get a big surprise if they try to pawn this because it's not even real gold. Didn't grow up in a very lavish house, didn't grow up with a very comfortable background. So my father made sure that I was going to get a high school class ring, but unfortunately it wasn't real gold. So a few years later, he realized how much I missed that high school class ring, that for my birthday, he actually found the company and found some of the similar logos that went on the ring because he knew that our mascot, for example, was the Tigers. So he found that. He also knew that I was in music, so he found that. And I'm sorry if you're not seeing these very well, but he found that. And he knew that the initials of my high school were KHS. And he also knew basically the stone color that I had picked. So he had picked out a replacement ring for me and ordered it for my birthday for a birthday present. So I have this replacement ring. Okay, it looks pretty similar. I liked wearing it. It looks pretty similar on my fingers. Well, here's the rest of the story. About 10 years later, my dad gets a phone call from someone, this mystery woman. And it turns out her husband had just recently passed away. And her husband was the security guard for the building that I worked in when I worked the job for my associate's degree while I was going to college. Unfortunately, the poor man had passed away from old age, and he was suffering for years with Alzheimer's disease. Turned out that this gentle, wonderful fellow had found my class ring, and for all of those years, this class ring had remained in the pocket of his overcoat. The one thing that enabled this class ring to come back to me was one of the careful choices that I made, because it was so precious to me, was to have my name inscribed inside. And if you notice from my yearbook photo, my maiden name was Hoberg. There weren't any other Hobergs whatsoever in the area where I grew up in Kingston, New York. So my father, of course, was easily findable in the phone book. This lovely older lady called up my father and explained to him, "I think I have something that might belong to you or somebody that you know." He said, "My goodness, of course, it's my daughter's class ring." So he gave her the address to send it to me. And the best part is not only did I get my original class ring back, but the fact of the matter is that she found it in December. And by the time she got my address and got to mail it back to me, it arrived on December the 10th, my birthday. So the cool thing about this story is that I finally got to tell it holistically to my students. The other cool thing is that I got to share with them a really special moment, because I was reunited with my original class ring, and I also now have the replacement. So both of these class rings, I actually have them hanging from a little hook here on my desk now, because it was just so cool to share this story. And of course, a couple of pictures here. This is me in high school with the hair, and this was my high school yearbook photo, and this was me at high school prom. So to have this keepsake back, and the story that was behind it, and that I got it back on my actual birthday, how cool is that? So thank you for watching my little story. Hope you enjoyed it.